Welcome to Lynnis Minutes. I will be sharing with you some quick tips, tools, and techniques about enhancing your mind, body, spirit wellness in just a few minutes.
Hi everybody, it's Lynnis, and welcome to Lynnis Minutes. And I am so excited today because I have officially entered into the holiday spirit. Normally I'm a big Christmas person, and this time of the year is full of all kinds of things: decorating, buying gifts for the kids, getting the tree, doing some holiday parties with my friends, going to look at the lights, listening to the singing Christmas tree at our local Lutheran church. All these wonderful things that we normally do that we probably will not be doing. Here in California, as you may have heard, we are on a lockdown. I'm not sure if it's official in Sacramento County yet, but it might as well be, because 50 miles that away, they're on lockdown. So I know it is coming to a town near us soon where we will be required to stay at home unless we're essential worker, or unless we have to go to the store. Other than that, they're even discouraging small groups, like going and stopping by your friend's house and hanging out for an hour or so. Given that, it brought to mind, as I began to listen to all the different thoughts and feelings that people were having around this piece of sheltering in place during the holidays and the pandemic, the economic strife, not to mention whatever the Sam Hill is going on with the presidential election. These are really tumultuous, crazy times. Some things that are going on we never would have imagined. And as a result, the normal winter blahs, Christmas blues, depression, winter feelings, and things like that seem to be exacerbated because we are in the midst of so much craziness. So I began to think, well, what could I do to help educate people and to help women in particular, midlife women, to get past these times? Because let's face it, as midlife women, it's like a triple whammy, okay? Our hormones are already going through some stuff, okay? And in many cases, we are playing other roles. We might be taking care of our grandchildren, maybe taking care of our sister's kids if you're in your 40s, and you're working from home, helping kids with school if they're there, whether they're preschool or college. Even your college students, you might have to encourage a little bit if they're sheltering in place and working from home this year. And on top of that, you might have parents who are getting older. Okay, so you're playing all these roles and your hormones are going. So, oh my gosh, not only are you feeling a little bit depressed, but you're feeling tired, you're feeling stressed. There's a lot going on during this holiday season. So I decided that I would resurrect my old brand, Distress the Mess, and bring on some fantastic women who are going to just speak into your life about what it is to experience stress and anxiety, depression, and some tools on how you can overcome it. I am so excited that today I have with me Dr. Katherine Kelly. I have known her for almost 10 years. She has been on all of my shows. She's been in my magazine, and she is phenomenal. I feel so blessed to know her and to call her my friend. Dr. Katherine Kelly is a licensed psychologist in psychotherapy. She has a consulting practice in Winston-Salem, North Carolina, sorry. She is multiple degreed. She has her doctorates, her master's. She even has a special certificate from the Mind Body Medical Institute of Harvard University. And she's been trained in various holistic and natural health modalities, as well as spiritual methods of healing. So she's just like the full whammy. She's got it all. She's takes things from a holistic approach. She's written books, many books, and she is the creator and the founder of the Soul Health Model, which I know she's going to be talking with you about. And I'm so glad to bring her on today. Let's see if we can bring her on. Hi.
Hi, Lynnis. How are you today? It's great to be here.
So wonderful to see you. We haven't talked in such a long time. We definitely have to catch up for real. But it's wonderful. You look well.
You do too. You do too. It's hard to say in COVID times, but yes,
Yes.
we do which I
We're
think
doing okay. Yes, and I've got my Christmas colors on. I've officially entered into the holiday season.
is great.
And I was saying before I brought you on that this is an interesting time because as midlifers, as women, we kind of have a triple whammy because we're going through our own, hormonal thing anyway.
Right.
And now we have, on top of that, the stress of the COVID environment,
Yeah.
and maybe the stress of caring for elderly parents and trying to keep them well, or if they're not well, taking care of them, and maybe helping with our sister's kids who are coming over because sister is an essential worker and has to work. So now you're babysitting because you're working from home, or grandchildren that you're helping with because your daughter or son is an essential worker and they have to leave and they need someone to care for their kids. And all the while you're thinking, this is not what I planned for midlife.
Right.
So I thought it would be great to have you come on and talk a little bit about depression and definitely about your soul health model and how that can be helpful, someone understanding that in terms of getting through times like this.
Absolutely. Well, and again, I think this is such an important, huge, important issue right now. We've been dealing in the United States, we've been dealing with this COVID situation since basically early February, beginning of March, depending on which part of the country you're in. And
Yes.
the Mental Health America, which is one of the national organizations for mental health, usually at the beginning of January puts out kind of a survey of what the most stressful situations for the previous year had been.
Mhm.
And it was really interesting. And I pay attention to that because, of course, being a psychologist, I'm in the trenches with people.
Right.
They put out a kind of a brief survey, and they had really looked at what had been happening on their website in May, June, July, and it was really it's a little overwhelming even as a psychologist to realize this, but they were showing that their hits on their website for anxiety information had gone up over 600%.
Wow.
And for depression, it had gone up like 450 or 480%. And
Wow.
so, and that's just for Mental Health America. That's just their website. So, and it's just the people that found themselves on that website. They're not even talking about the people that for local mental health associations or there's so many different organizations, thank goodness, that are addressing this concern. So I'm grateful for you to ask me to be here today because this is such a huge issue. And I've always had a very busy practice, but I have to admit I am seeing probably 25% more clients per week, and I don't have anywhere to put them because people keep trying to get in, and I just don't have anywhere else to put them. So it's such an important issue. So I'm glad that you have asked me here today to help address whatever it is you'd like me to address today.
Yes, I'm glad you're here too. And there are a lot of people who are needing the help, and not everyone even knows where to go if they could go. And then we have an issue around coverage, in terms of having the medical coverage to seek a psychotherapist or a psychologist or a counselor or anybody that's, educated in the things that you are. So I thought maybe that you might talk a little bit about your viewpoint in terms of your practice and the necessity of healing the soul.
Absolutely.
And how one can begin to go about doing that in terms of how it might impact how they're feeling right now.
So as you mentioned, I've known you for, oh gosh, it was probably 2013 actually when I
Yeah.
published my first book, so almost 10 years. And I published the Soul Health Model, and the Soul Health Model is basically a model to help people get through the human condition. And it's a model of a tree, and so I have 10 different branches of the human condition that pretty much everybody is trying to figure out and balance. And then the trunk of the tree is really what signifies for me the depth of a person, the soul of a person. And so I don't use the word soul as a religious term. I use it as a personal term, that the soul is the essence of who we are. And particularly in a case like this, we cannot be going through and experiencing all of the different layers of a pandemic without having the essence of who we are negatively affected or impacted. There's just no way we can. And about 4 months ago, in fact, I wrote this in my newsletter. I was thinking about this, because I'm hearing so many different layers of things from people, from my clients and workshop attendees and Facebook followers, that, I really realized that each and every one of those 10 branches has been affected by this pandemic. And so I'm really trying to help people realize that if you use this model, it helps you realize that if you work on one of the branches, it inevitably is going to positively impact all of the other 9 branches. And so this is a very holistic approach. This is a very comprehensive approach, and yet people think it takes a lot of work to take care of themselves and their souls, and it really doesn't. We have to go back to the basics, and I think that is the number one thing people mistake, is that we have to go through and spend hours on our self-care and carve out all this time, which we do not have. Like you said, if we are homeschooling right now, or if we are trying to take care of elderly patients or the parents, whatever the situation, we don't have those hours of time. But it really is going back to, are you pausing every day? Whether it is to just breathe, whether it is to be grateful, whether it is to take stock and take perspective of your situation. Are you taking those 20 minutes to go for a long walk, to try to burn out some of that extra energy? Are you doing a nightly ritual? Are you giving up your sleep hygiene ritual so you're really not getting the sleep you need? So again, this is a holistic approach, but just by working on one basic piece of self-care, which I actually call soul care, we can get so far. We can get so far in our self-care. And I'm just going to give you I'll give you 2 examples. I've always been an avid exerciser, just because it's something that keeps me grounded and keeps me kind of feeling like I'm moving forward. And lo and behold, in the midst of this whole COVID situation, at the end of June, I tore the meniscus in my left knee and couldn't exercise. So it took away one of my coping mechanisms, but I found other ways to stay active. I did some weights, I did this, I did that, did some short walks. But I noticed that my own coping was thrown off. So what did I do? I ramped up some of the other coping. I started reading again, much more for pleasure. I started doing some craft projects that I had not made time for before. I basically started lighting a candle every morning when I would get ready for work, because just the simple flick of a candle helped ground me, helped
That's one of mine, yeah.
stay present. And so these little things, that you can implant in your day help your mental health, help your soul health, help your overall health. And yet it doesn't take all that much time and energy. We just have to be intentional and mindful. So, I think that's the first step, is stepping back long enough to go within and really ask ourselves, what are the top 2 or 3 things I can reinitiate in my life that would not take that much time or energy?
That is so true. I'm a workout enthusiast too. My thing is dance, but I'm just not able to. Like yours, my business has really. I feel so blessed. I pivoted my business a little bit and did some other things, and now I'm really busy, and so I don't have as much time as I would like. But I still do workouts. But a couple of things. First of all, I gave myself grace about that and didn't beat up on myself. Bodies have muscle memory. You will get it back if something happens. You're not working out every single day. But the other thing is I did go to other stuff that could bring me a sense of joy and comfort. I've been watching Netflix a lot, binge watching and stuff. And then something said, you know what, let's turn off that part of the brain right now, because you do have a lot of things you need to do that require focus and concentration. So I have all these books. Right down the street from me is a guy who gives away books for free. He has a little neighborhood library. Give a book, take a book. And I probably have given him about 40 books, and I've taken like about 20. And I haven't read any of them. Just about like the last since the summer, I've picked up about 20 books. So I've started reading the books, and I cannot tell you how much calm and joy it gives me in the course of my day. And I had kind of stopped doing that because I was so preoccupied with other stuff and I was watching Netflix. So that was a little small thing, but
Yeah,
it made a big difference with my coping mechanism. And
right.
the other thing was, I decided that even though I may not see my grandbabies for Christmas and I may not be seeing my friends and doing all the stuff that we normally do on Christmas, all of our traditions, I was going to go ahead and start decorating anyway. This
Nice.
is my first attempt, my green and my red.
Yeah.
But I cannot tell you how much joy that brought me. It ushered in some really great memories. I've had, as we all do, some great memories over the holidays, and it kind of lifted me up a little bit. So I understand what you're saying. It's the simple things many times.
Yeah, and I think that's the biggest, I really think that's the biggest mistake people make when they think about taking care of themselves, is thinking it has to be something huge. And I think, I have reminded so many people about just doing some simple craft or doing some simple baking, or like you said, decorating, taking 20 minutes to decorate something that you wouldn't normally decorate. I when I hurt my knee, it was basically because I decided that I was going to redo my entire backyard. I have so many trees around me. I'm a tree girl.
Mhm.
I have so many trees around me that I can't get my grass to grow anymore because they've grown so tall. So I naturalized my entire backyard. And I'll tell you what's been beautiful about it for me as far as coping is not only do I love it because it's super simple and natural, but I've started to put these little crafty projects in there. I had all these stones, these gemstones that
Wow.
I just had hanging around, and so I
Mhm.
started making chimes for the yard. And it took me probably less than an hour to make a chime, and yet it just brings so much to the yard. Uh,
Wow.
and another thing and I want to bring this up, especially at this time of year, because it warms my heart. I feel good about it every time I do it. You mentioned the lending libraries and the little,
Mhm.
the book hutches. In the little community that I live in, there was I think she's an 8-year-old girl who felt so bad for all the people who were having a hard time with unemployment, or the parents had lost their jobs, and so they didn't have food. And so we have a Habitat for Humanity that's not too far from me, and they gave her a pantry hutch for her to paint, and she basically created that into a food pantry. And
Oh,
so
nice.
it's beautiful. It's beautiful. And so as soon as I found out about that, every time I go to the grocery store, I buy some stuff to put in there. And, I may even just go in for a few things for myself, but I try my best to pick up,
Mhm.
a bag full of food or toiletries that I can just,
Mhm.
run by there, put them in there, and then leave. It takes me less than probably 10 minutes to actually purchase the stuff and less than 1 minute to put it in the little pantry.
I love that.
So it's,
Yes.
yeah, and it's been such a hit that a church asked her to put one up in front of their church, and so it's like, there's something about this time of year that instills a desire to give anyway, and so I know from a mental health perspective that was one of the things that helps, is that if you do something or give to others, it actually gives yourself a boost. It gives you a little boost of serotonin, believe it or not,
Mm.
but it also makes you feel like you've helped or you've given or you've created a sense of community. So I just want to nudge people that, and again, we just have to get creative with how we care for our souls right now.
Mm.
So whether it's caring for our own souls or helping caring for someone else's, it helps us build that strong foundation for that soul health model. So it strengthens. Can tell you
Mhm.
about client 4 client sessions ready today.
Wow,
Uh, and
that's
about
amazing.
32 more to go this week.
Wow.
But it's one of those things that, the more we can bolster ourselves in
Mhm.
general,
Mhm.
the less the negative things in life can get us down. So I'm a big encourager of both prevention,
Mhm.
that maintenance, taking care of yourself, as well as the intervention, meaning taking a look at which part of your life needs a little bit of a nudge and just looking at the simple ways to help kind of that branch flourish a little bit.
And you mentioned the 10 branches of the soul health model, and everybody, I have Dr. Kelly's website there, so you can go and take a look at the soul health model. But what are the branches? What are the 10 branches?
So the first few of these are going to be very there's 10 branches, and the first few of those are going to be very logical. But then the more I talk about the other several, everybody will be like, oh, wow, yeah, I didn't think about that. So the first one is physical. When someone asks you about wellness, they always ask you, or they always answer from a physical perspective. So are you physically well? Of course, you have psychological wellness as one of the branches. You have social wellness, which, again, as I'm going through this, I would encourage you to think about how COVID has impacted you on each one of these. You
Yeah.
have social,
Right,
you have
right.
interpersonal, you have environmental. So what's going on around you? And again, COVID is all about environmental health. Intellectual, occupational. So a lot of people have lost their jobs. A lot of people are working from home, and that's shifted everything. People have been, cut back on their hours. Then you have financial. This has been a huge financial impact. In fact, I think it's going to hit next summer. I think the financial impact is really going to show itself much more comprehensively next summer.
Mhm.
And you have spiritual health. A lot of people can't go to their places of worship. They can't go out to the public places that they would meditate in anymore. They can't go to the yoga classes. They can't go to the meditation classes. And then the last one is, and it's last but certainly absolutely not least, is leisure. So fun and leisure and recreational health. So if you really think about those 10 branches, there is not one branch that has been left untouched.
Right.
You know,
Wow,
I,
you're right.
yeah. And so when I look at, in fact, I'm going to reach over and get my model. But if you really look at this is my soul health. Let me get it in front of the
Yes,
camera.
there it is. There it is.
And if you look at this, there is not one branch that has not been affected.
Yes.
And so, I tell people, I'm going to bring up my wilty tree. I tell people, this is how a lot of people are feeling right now. It's not that
Wow.
it's
Yeah.
not that vibrant, rich tree that everybody wants. We're very
Yes.
broken down. So I think the thing is, one of the terms I started using with clients probably 5 or 6 months ago is the whole idea of becoming a mental health warrior or a soul warrior. Because more than ever, we are having to be intentional, we're having to be mindful, we are having to be these warriors where we have to look out for the risk of us sinking from an emotional
Yes.
perspective. And it's very easy to forget or not pay attention to how bad we're feeling. And then we have to dig ourselves out even further than had we been kind of keeping on top of it all the time. So I'm just nudging people as much as possible to keep the basics going and then be intentional, particularly with how the holidays are. I know a lot of people are having a hard time because they can't see their loved ones and they have to do things differently. But there are creative ways that we can connect, like through video, like through phone. There's all kinds of apps out there to do group games from your own living rooms. So, it's just there's creative ways that we can cope. We just have to be willing to adapt a little bit.
Well, thank you so much for spending this time with us, Dr. Kelly or Dr. Catherine. I admire so much the work that you are doing. And I have to ask you, how do you keep yourself from experiencing compassion fatigue and getting burned out and stressed out, especially given the times? What is it that you do?
I appreciate that question. Number one, I do take care of myself. I do a lot to take care of myself. But honestly, and I learned this years ago, this is when I left my job at the medical center as a professor. I just went into private practice, and every day, that was at the time that I worked outside of the home. Now I'm kind of doing a lot of this by teletherapy. But the first thing I do when I'm wrapping up my day is I ask, did I make a difference? And if I made a difference, I feel like that's what helps me shift into realizing that, okay, then I need to keep myself going. I need to keep that compassion going so that I can help people. And Spirit told me April, May that, you just need to get people through the pandemic, and then this is going to shift for you. So I listen to Spirit. I keep myself very much in touch with my own soul. But as long as I'm making a difference, I know that I'm doing the right thing.
Oh, you are definitely making a difference. I know you made a difference to the 5,500 women that belong to this group that, and then this is going to go everywhere else, but you just made a difference in my life by reminding myself that I do make a difference. We may not get the feedback every single time. I don't necessarily, because I'm online all the time. Maybe you do more in person, but every once in a while I wonder, am I even making a difference? Is anybody out there even caring what I'm doing? And then I just have to know that I know that I know that somewhere, someone is perhaps seeing a podcast like this or reading a blog or something else that I've done, and it made a difference. It made a shift or a pivot in their lives in such a way where they're now on a different track. So thank you. Thank you so much for making such a difference in so many people's lives, Dr. Kelly.
Well, thank you for spreading the word as well. I appreciate that greatly, and it's good to see you again.
I know, and we're going to catch up for sure. So thanks so much for joining us. And I want to just make sure I say thank you to everybody else who's been listening. You know, guys, Lynnis Minutes has done a whole lot of stuff over the last year, and I just want to thank you for tuning in. These next few weeks, we're going to be focusing in particular on how to deal with the holiday stress. We're going to be talking a lot about distress the mess for the holiday stress. Finding ways that we can rise above how we might be feeling in our own minds and hearts and getting to another level of just being well in our mind, body, and spirit. Thanks so much for listening. And I'm going to be coming right back because next up on in the Wellness Woman group, we're going to have the wonderful Beverly Kyer with her Mindfulness Mondays, talking about compassion fatigue for caregivers and for all of you human service providers, nurses, doctors, all your first responders, and a lot of us midlife women. So I will be right back with that show. Thanks so much for listening. Bye-bye.